Welcome to episode 27 of Drew's Baseball Crew. It's great to be back here. Myself, Drew Skyberg, here on this Saturday morning, May 27th. Here we are. We will be previewing the slate today for, Major League Baseball. And I say it's great to be back as you all have known. I made it aware last week. I was going to be gone this week. I was out in Vermont. So it was an awesome experience. And out there is very nice. So I would recommend, if you are interested in going up and enjoying some outdoor life, Vermont, New Hampshire, it's a great getaway place. I think it's a great way to say it. But we had some content out this week. You got to see myself. I was out Monday morning. Right, we talked about Wisconsin sports. We previewed the upcoming week for the Brewers. Then on Tuesday, I was joined alongside Jared Valeski and Zach Roush to discuss what's going on in football, some fantasy football dilemmas we all have, but some games as well. Then Wednesday, I sat down with Maddie Scherenbrock, a club volleyball player, discussed her journey, how she ended up playing for the NCVF, National Volleyball. I think, or it's NVCF. It's one of those two. I mix that acronym up sometimes, but it was great all 3 days there, 3 episodes there. And here's episode number 4 this week, bringing you that preview. Scheduling before we start, right? We'll get right into it after. Sunday or Monday, I'll be bringing the Memorial Day edition of Drew Sports Crew there, and we'll be talking through what's going on with the Brewers. Again, our thoughts are with Willie Adames right now, and that's just Major League Baseball wide, right? With that getting hit with that foul ball yesterday, pretty tragic. Prayers with him as well, but otherwise, we'll talk about the EWC. We'll talk about playoffs, what's going on there. And then we'll move forward. Again, Journey Milling probably be later in the week. So I'll keep you all posted on that. And then, we'll preview some baseball on Saturday. How does that sound? I think it sounds great. So let's get going here. That's your Sports Crew, all platforms. Here's the slate. Here we go. We have a game already, 12:05 in 2 hours from now, 12:05 Central. So we got to make some quick decisions here. Luis Severino is going to help us make that decision. XBA of 216 against the current San Diego Padres roster. Also, what I like is the exit velo numbers are pretty low for the team, limiting hard contact, right? And then the XWOBA also complements the XBA very well here, 267. So, like those numbers. Michael Wacha has gotten hit around pretty tough pretty hard for against this Yankees roster. Again, with his time in Boston, that definitely impacts that. Wacha, not a great matchup for him today. Let's look at some other guys here. Chris Bassett is actually a guy who I'm looking at against the current Minnesota Twins roster. Good numbers, right? K percentage of 30%. I like those numbers. Pablo Lopez, not so much against this Toronto Blue Jays team. So maybe not Lopez today. So Andrew Heaney's numbers are not so great, but the thing that why we like Ballpark Pals so much, again, is why I constantly mention them, put them in the link of the show, is they have their model, right? It also can look at the last, set amount of pitches a pitcher has. So it actually ends up giving you more recent, because, again, we can't use Zach Greinke's career numbers against a specific player with how he's, changed over the last 10 years, or like Madison Bumgarner, for example, right? We're not going to use an at-bat that he was when Harris were facing him in 2014. Doesn't make sense. So that's just my thoughts. I got a matchup for you I'm looking at. There's 2 of them. I'm looking at Brady Singer versus the Washington Nationals. We kind of saw what Singer had going on last year at the end of the year. Hasn't been that as great as that, but has great numbers against this Washington Nationals team. XBA of 207, XWOBA 267, K percentage 35%. Very nice. Vince Velasquez with the Pirates. So we saw pitcher supposedly going to be a pitcher's duel in Seattle last night with Kirby and Keller going, and Pirates had 7 home runs. I mean, it was Mariners scored a bunch of runs too. It was like, okay, not the case. But Velasquez has great numbers for his career against the Seattle Mariners team. Luis Castillo, He does as well. I mean, the underlying numbers aren't so great, right? I mean, the average and the xWOBA are or in the WOBA are better than the expected ones. So that leads me to kind of be less hesitant, more hesitant on that. Um, and yes, I am reading this right. You ready? Tyler Glasnow is pitching today. Yes, I mean I should start the episode with that. This like it's Glasnow versus Kershaw in Tropicana, 3:10 Central. Just saying, that's gonna be a good one. Um, Hard to say. You can take Glasnow today. I don't know what kind of limit we're gonna be looking at. It's also the Rays. Kershaw's looked as good as it gets. XBA of 201. Yeah, I mean Kershaw definitely take in a two. I'd be in one pitcher. I might want more upside. And Kershaw has, of course, that upside you feel, but I think Kershaw's a safe bet in a two pitcher lineup today. Charlie Morton, Zach Wheeler. mm, looking at Morton, looking at Wheeler. Wheeler has the sample size. Think about he's been the NL East his whole career. Against this current Lab Braves roster, he's 225 plate appearances we can use. So, and the numbers tend to go Wheeler's way too. So, I'd look at Wheeler, give him a look. Morton as well, not so much though. So Corbin Burns has really good numbers against the Giants for his career, but he's struggled the last 5 starts. So that's kind of where not sure exactly where we want to look at this. The Brewers have absolutely smoked Logan Webb for his career. XBA of 374, xWOBA of 442. So we'll preview some of those matchups and why that's the case. But Burns, I don't know. You're hoping you're buying low almost, right? His salary is going to be affected, so I'd be looking at that. Zach Davies is starting for the Arizona Diamondbacks today, and his numbers are not great for his career against them. So, no to Davies. Brandon Williamson is making his first start against the Cubs in his career. Also, Tanner Bibby. Look, I know Bibby doesn't have a lot we can base off of, right, in terms of matchups, but with Tanner Bibby, right-hand pitcher, um, really good slider. I think Bibby honestly could be a guy we could give some looks to against, this team in the Cardinals that are pretty right-handed dominant. So just kind of a thought. I'd look at Bibby. I think he would be like I'd do a Kershaw Bibby pair today. I think that'd be great. And then we have Justin Verlander at Coors Field. Love the player, love the matchup, don't love the stadium. So I don't like the matchup actually. Chase Anderson is going for the Rockies. My favorite pitcher on a different team, Edward Cabrera, is going against Shohei Ohtani. So again, Cabrera throws 95-mile-per-hour change. I think Cabrera might be one of the most interesting pitchers in all baseball, just with his repertoire and kind of like where the changeup, the type of movement he gets on it, just how hard he throws it. It's just he can't go long into games. It's so frustrating. So I can't say to take him. And then you got Shohei Ohtani today going against Marlins. That's top matchup, one of them of today. There's your pitcher report. A lot of studs going is what I just said. And if you can get in the morning ones, I'd look at Severino. I'd look at Bassett. I didn't even touch on Framber Valdez against the Athletics. Of course, you're going to look at Framber Valdez. The matchup's great. XP of 237. Expected WOBA 256. Exit velo he's limited hard contact. Looking at that. I'd look at Brady Singer. Even Vince Velasquez, Clayton Kershaw. A lot of good guys to go today. We're going to then move here and talk some matchups here. So let's go through those top matchups of today. But before we do that, we need to thank Point Brewery, right? Saturday, it's summer. We got Point Brewery on our side. Again, diet root beer here. Great root beer flavor along with a nice, refreshing vanilla, right? 0 calories, 0 sugar. And it's perfect, right? In a bottle. They have them in cans now. I still love that. Like just bring them in cans, going to tailgate for Brewer game, which I'll be going to a couple in the upcoming weeks. It's exciting stuff. I don't know how else to put in any other words. It's exciting. What's going on? If you're 21 or plus, they have tours going on. Check that out on their social media. Links are down below. So thank you, Point Brewery. Okay, matchups. So although we have a lot of aces going, we still have some crazy matchups, crazy good matchups. Top one, if you can capitalize, Anthony Rizzo. 396 average with an OPS over 1,000, almost 1,100 against Michael Wacha for his career. That includes 3 home runs, 4 walks to 5 strikeouts. And again, that's 62 plate appearances we're looking at. I'm telling you, crazy stuff. And that's what we want today. Starling Marte against Chase Anderson at Coors Field now, too. He's been 432, OPS over 1,200. 2 home runs, 2 walks, 5 strikeouts. Some other extra base hits thrown in there as well. Alec Bohm against Charlie Morton, 435 for him average-wise. And that's in 24 plate appearances. Bryce Harper, also very dominant against him. 6 walks to 8 strikeouts, OPS over 1,100. Harper, Bohm, we're looking at potentially a Philly stack. I got number 3 here, right? If you pay up, get the studs, make a stack here with Philly, you could be getting some good value. And here's the other one, right? It's JT Realmuto, 10 for 32. And he's got, like, the OPS isn't there for batting 313 against him, but he's made relatively, good contact in that, and then also only 6 strikeouts in 33 plate appearances. So not bad. I would be monitoring Realmuto, or maybe pair another guy like Bryson Stott. We'll talk about there's some others here. Though Travis d'Arnaud against Zach Wheeler, probably not going to be in. Will be interesting, right, with Sean Murphy potentially DHing. Is d'Arnaud OPS over 1,100 for him. Might want to get him in that lineup today. DJ LeMahieu is batting 389 against Michael Wacha for his career. Only 4 strikeouts as well. Some decent extra base hits thrown in there also. Yuli Gurriel against Shohei Ohtani. Yes, he's batting 300. I don't advise taking him today though, but interesting with the matchup. Next up, we have a lot of guys with a pretty big sample size against players today. Tim Anderson, though, against Michael Lorenzen. I'd monitor that. Good career numbers for him. So looking at Anderson against Lorenzen. Other ones, Carlos Correa. Hopefully he can get on track against Chris Bassett, although a tough matchup. 4 walks to 3 strikeouts in that. And then OPS at 1,100. So there's one to monitor. Next up, Marcus Semien against Dean Kramer. He has a OPS over 1,100. I was looking at the wrong one. OPS over 1,300. Yep, but still a great matchup. 1 home run also included in that sample size. So those are like the stars, who have some experience against these guys who you might want to pay up on. I have a few other guys with, less of a sample size. Gavin Sheets against Michael Lorenzen. Has only gotten out once by him in his career so far. Also has not struck out yet against him. Also, Jorge Mateo, Austin Hayes both have good numbers against Andrew Heaney. So just keeping both those right-handed hitters in mind. Also, Ryan Mountcastle. Call me crazy, but I know it's probably like he had a rough start when they played him, but it's interesting to see Hayes, Mateo, Mountcastle. It almost makes a stack right there. It almost does. Again, we have to account for also, if Heaney's gonna, how many innings he's gonna pitch. So it's just interesting to see that. But I wouldn't be opposed taking one of those 3 in the lineup. If I'm taking one, I think I'm taking Mountcastle. So there you go. Those were just some of the matchups I wanted to look at. Now we're going to go look at park factors. We're going to look at the weather, right? Of course, Coors Field is the best place to hit today. Doesn't surprise me. Oriole Park looks like a good place to hit as well, plus 4% for runs. And then we have Chase Field and Truist Park. So Chase Field, Arizona, Truist Park, Atlanta, plus 2%, plus 1% run change. So we have some places not good to play. Wind is blowing in Wrigley, minus 21%. Wind is not ideal either in Comerica. So there are games where we're looking at runs Okay, American Family Field's thrown in here at minus 12%, but it's again the roof's gonna be closed. So places that are not ideal: Angel Stadium, Comerica, Wrigley Field, Progressive Field. So like there's like 4 stadiums or so that aren't ideal for runs today, but we're just gonna monitor that. Looking at like postponement wise, if we think games are gonna get to that level, um, no, it looks like all the games today should be clean, clear. It just the wind is gonna be tough in some places. Wrigley's gonna be so. I didn't really mention any of the guys there, and I honestly the over under 8.5. They're ready for it. So just some over unders before I talk about some park data more. Yankee Stadium, San Diego, over unders 8.5. Again with weather. Minnesota, Toronto's 8 runs, also because of weather. And then we have some 7.5 thrown in here. And then Coors is at 11 runs. So Vegas is telling you, right, when we look at over-unders, and why I like to look at this is kind of looking at where Vegas thinks the runs are going to be scored, right? And right now we're looking, again, the over-under is already up to 11 in Colorado. So we're looking at 11 runs potentially, right? Right there. A lot of offense could be thrown in there. And I already gave some guys for New York, but we'll talk more about who gets the best matchups here in a second, thanks to Ballpark Pal. So we're going to do it. We'll look at who has the best matchups today. Per Ballpark Pal, right? And Ballpark Pal really likes Boston. They like some of Boston's hitters against Zach Davies, right? But then also some of Washington's hitters. I'll go through the names here, specifics in a sec. Just want to talk about like how their lineups are constructed and what we're looking at. They do like the bottom of the order here for Boston, right? Right, guys like Tristan Casas, they like Emmanuel Valdez, also Connor Wong, the catcher. But when I'm looking here with Zach Davies, for sure, I'm looking at. I think Valdez. Honestly, you're getting some good value with today, right? Projected to bat in the 7 spot, good numbers, and then also the the probability, the runs created change is at 40%, positively here for that's actually for Wong, but for Valdez it's 32%. So in summary, I'm talking about Emmanuel Valdez being a good matchup, one of those guys to like plug in with those stacks I mentioned. Also, then going with Washington, I did mention taking Brady Singer, but there are a few guys in that lineup who stand out in Ballpark Pal's model, and one of them being Corey Dickerson near the bottom of the order there too at the 7 spot. Luis Garcia's coming off a 6-hit game. He also stands out. Daniel Vogelbach and Coors. They love Daniel Vogelbach today. Does Ballpark Pal. So maybe another guy to plug in your lineup if you have a spot. Just looking at if Vogelbach's in the lineup also. So we have to monitor, wait for lineups to come out. I'm looking at Brett Beatty as well. I think he's going to be in the middle of the order. Pretty good spot for him today. Francisco Alvarez has been hot. So hot that I think he's going to be a good play today. And I'd be monitoring taking him. And then also, I have a few more guys I want to throw in before I just give a few more of my stacks that I'd be interested in. Right, I talked about Boston stack. I'll talk more through that one. But then also, I hit on Baltimore stack, but just some individual guys who could complement your lineup. Potentially Nick Prado against Josiah Gray. Nick Prado again in that Kansas City Royals lineup. I'd be monitoring, looking at that because it's an interesting series. Kansas City, Washington, 2 teams, 15 and 37 are the Royals, 22-29 are the Nationals. Gray's numbers are good this year though, so I'm more focused. Right, Singer's ERA is 7.5. I talked about what he was able to do last year, not really able to keep it up as much, but a good matchup really for him. But Prado's gonna be batting leadoff for the Royals. Could be a good spot. Also, right, Vinny Pasquantino, batting number 2 there. So both those guys, maybe we give an extra look too. So there's some specifics on that. But before we go, I'm going to highlight some stacks, and we'll talk through those. So, all right, I hit on the Baltimore stack, kind of how that would look in my eyes. Mateo batting 8. He's the 8 hitter today, and then you potentially like it might be a little too far, but going like Mateo to Mountcastle to potentially Hayes, you could do like an 8-3-5. You're not really going to capitalize too much on like the impact there, so it might be better if you would do Hayes, Mountcastle, and potentially even Ramon Urias. I didn't even mention him, but just with how the lineup may be constructed, it might work out best doing it that way. And then a potential stack, right? Hogan Harris is starting for the Athletics. I didn't talk much about him. We don't have much on him, but I can tell you that Alex Bregman's in a good spot today. Can Jose Abreu turn it around? That's a good question. But then also Kyle Tucker. Not just like I'm fading Jordan. I think Jordan would be good, but based on the price, I don't know if it's worth it today. So that was another stack I was monitoring. Again, I'm looking at Tanner Bibby today as a good play in terms of fantasy. And then that Boston stack, I'll talk about the Mets stack here before we go. So Boston stack, it would be like Valdez, potentially Connor Wong, and then I'd go Yoshida. I'd go 7-9-2 on that stack. I think that would work out for you. The New York Mets then, if Vogelbach gets in the lineup, I think he's a great option today. Then against Chase Anderson, I'm literally looking at like the top of the order here. I'm looking at like Francisco Lindor, Jeff McNeil, Brett Beatty, those three guys, the 3-man stack there. And based on matchups, I'm looking at Colorado. Jurickson Profar is a guy who stands out for me as a good matchup today with Colorado, potentially just picking a guy there in the top. Elias Diaz has been hot. And we have a question here sent in by AJ. Any core plays for the early slate I should build around? Yeah, I was kind of touching on this. So here, I'll raise up here so you can see my face with the question. Thank you, AJ, for sending in the question before we wrap up here. The core plays. So we were talking this, right, the slate here early wise. We're looking at San Diego, New York. We're looking at Severino Waka. We're looking at, all right, the White Sox, Tigers. Regarding pitching wise, we're talking Ballpark Pal. They're linked down below. They really prefer Chris Bassett's matchup today against the Twins, weather-wise too. But Bassett, in their eyes, is undervalued in terms of where what his price is at. I can give you in their starting pitcher projections, right? Looking projection-wise, looking at Bassett's actually one of the top matchups today, projected 6.8 strikeouts. And then they also are projecting him to go 6 1/3 innings. So looking at that, they also give win probability, and they give him a 41% chance to get the win today. When we look at that is tied for second today. So Bassett is the guy, if you're looking at a pitcher, although the weather's not ideal. Anthony Rizzo was a guy I touched on earlier in the episode who has great career numbers off Waka. I'm looking at him. So if you're looking like core guys, there's a pitcher right there, a hitter in, again, Anthony Rizzo. But then also we looked at Tim Anderson has great career numbers against Lorenzen, who's struggled as of late. And then we've also touched on Lopez has not done so well against this Toronto Blue Jays team. And including in that is Brandon Belt is a good option. So I'd give you Belt, Rizzo, Bassett are the three. So those are some guys I was looking at. I think there's stack potential wise if you're looking at it. Weather's not ideal in any of these early games. So it's tough to forecast some offensive, plays here, but that's what I'm looking at. Thank you, AJ, for the question. And that's going to close it out here for myself, Drew Skyberg, at Drew Sports Crew on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok. I'll have my Fantasia Picks plays. It's over under fantasy here. All of those posted. If you're interested in joining the beta, reach out at Drew Sports Crew. Send you a beta code or early access code, I guess is probably the better word on that. But thank you all for listening here to another episode of Drew's Baseball Crew and Drew Sports Crew, the perfect podcast for you.